Hi, this is Pastor Wes Gunther, and welcome to Redeemed and Revived. This podcast reflects both the pulpit ministry at Cedar Hill Baptist Church of Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, as well as some studio-recorded lessons. Thank you for joining with us today.
2014. In 2014, my youngest son, Philip, he had graduated from high school. He had worked a couple jobs in between there, not really sure where to go, what to do. He hadn't gone to college yet, and so he wasn't sure what that job opportunity might be, where his life was going to take him. And he started talking to me a little bit about the Appalachian Trail, and had a friend, it was actually one of CJ's friends and classmates, that was also interested in the Appalachian Trail. And so they got to talking about it, and they made some, I think, personally, some pretty quick plans. In other words, there wasn't a lot of preparation put into that, and we'll talk about that. But not a lot of preparation put into that, not a lot of planning, no training, right? Just pack some stuff up, drive down to Georgia, get on the trail, and head towards Maine. Appalachian Trail is over 2,100 miles long. That's a lot of miles to walk. That's a lot of miles to drive. But walking, that's a long way. And so it takes a lot of preparation and planning for that, which I don't think they really put into. They just kind of figured it out as they went. Philip that summer walked over 2,000 miles. He walked from Georgia all the way to the state line of Maine. And when he got to the state line of Maine, he said, "I'm good. That's it." I'm like, "Man, you're only like less than 200 miles. He's like, "I've done what I wanted to do. Maybe I'll do it someday, but that's it." So he walked 2,000 miles on the trail, which I admire him for doing that. In the midst of that, one of the things I learned is that these hikers that hike the trail, and this is something that maybe is somewhat familiar to us because the Appalachian Trail is right in our neck of the woods here, right? It goes right through Boiling Springs and on up over Wirtsville Road and through this part of the country. And so something we are probably somewhat familiar with. But I learned through that every person that's on the trail has someone off the trail that's kind of helping them in some way that they keep in contact with. And the trail lingo for that is that's their trail manager, right? Someone to kind of manage what they're doing, manage them while they're out there. Even in 2014, he had cell phone, and so we were able to communicate with him pretty well. We were able to text. We were able to tell him, "Hey, a storm's coming through southern Virginia. You might want to watch out for that." Because out on the trail, you don't always know that. You don't always have good contact with that. There's some communication on the trail. There's places they may stop at a town or a restaurant. But sometimes for days on end, you're out even off of cell phone service. And so it's hard to communicate and get a grasp of what's going on in the real world out there. And so we would communicate with him. We would find out where he was headed, and there were certain post offices along the path where you send care packages to your hiker. And then they communicate with you what they need. Hey, my strap on my backpack broke, or my shoes are wearing out, or this or that, whatever they may need. I need lighter rainwear. Everything has to be lighter because you're carrying it on your back. And they all watch every ounce of what they're carrying at every moment. So they keep the bare minimum. So when they start in February, even in Georgia, they may have gloves and hats. But by the time they get to Pennsylvania in May and June, they don't want to be carrying gloves and hats. They're done with that. They want light wear. So you're sending them stuff along the way. You get to a post office that you know is 3 or 4 days ahead of them, and you send them a box. There better be some food in there, because they're always looking for that. But they want some lighter wear, some lighter shoes, some lighter stuff, something that broke, the batteries went out of their flashlight, whatever. You send it to them, and they can restock, resupply when they get to that post office. You become the trail manager. You kind of keep track of them. Bessie and I went as far as, because we were able to in 2014, we went as far as traveling several times to meet up with him. We did it in North Carolina, in the Smoky Mountains. We did it in Virginia twice. We did it, of course, through central PA. We went up into Massachusetts with him. We were up in Maine with him. And so several different times we went with him along the way to meet up with him. First thing we would do when we picked him up, if you can get past the hiker smell, that's another story. That's another message. But if you then you take them straight to like Wendy's, and they get like an obscene amount of food, and you see them eat like they've never ate before. because they're burning so many calories and they become so lean out there and so muscle bound. It's a good diet program. Not one I'm willing to do yet, but for somebody that would be, you lose weight out there. And so you help them, you get them food, you get them the supplies they need, you check up on them, you make sure they know what weather's coming or what they may be up against. You become their trail manager. And so I think I shared last week for 3 days in northern Virginia, up in the Shenandoah Valley, my brother Brett and I went down and hiked with him. And just something we wanted to do for about 3 days there. And we met up with him and just stayed with him for a few days. We did, by the way, hit a horrific rainstorm. It was, it was more than they had called for. And we were dealing with crossing creeks and brooks, because we're up in the mountains. No rivers or anything, but that were much higher than normal and soaked and all that stuff. That's, again, another story for another day. But as I'm hiking with him, I'm thinking about this. And I began to see the parallels between that trail manager and God's role in our lives. How God works and intervenes in our lives. I don't mean in any way to diminish the magnitude of God. But there were some parallels in the fact that He is with us and cares for us and guides us and helps us and teaches us and leads us that I just couldn't miss as I was out there walking on the trail and as I was spending time helping my son walk on the trail. Some of those lessons that became very real and very apparent, and I had a real practical, physical application of how that applies that I think we can apply spiritually. And so I wrote down some things in regards to the fact of God being my trail manager. Number one, God made the path on which we walk. He made it. He's the creator of all, the sustainer of all. It's not a surprise to Him. How interesting would it have been to walk with the people who laid out the Appalachian Trail? Because every time I got to the foot of a mountain, I want to know, how long is this going to take? How high is this thing? And after I'm worn and tired and depleted of all my energy and find out there's still more to go, I'm gasping for breath. Philip's long gone. He has his hiking legs at this point. He's gone. But I'm exhausted and I want to know what's next. It'd be nice to be with someone who's like, well, I know. It's just around this bend. It's just over that hill. And then there's a rest area down there. Boy, with the person who laid out the Appalachian Trail and the people who were responsible for that, of course, were not with me. He had a little book. I talked about that last week, so I won't reiterate. But he had a little book that kind of gave us some guidelines on that. God made the trail. It doesn't surprise Him when we're up against an obstacle, when we find ourselves facing a mountain, when things aren't so good, when we feel depleted, when we feel like we're out of energy, when we've hurt ourselves along the way. It doesn't surprise God. He knows. He laid it out. He made it. He knows it. He's the creator of all. That phrase that has been used through the years, so applicable in this. Did it ever occur to you that nothing ever occurred to God? Right. Things occur to us as a physical dad, as a trail manager. I'm trying to check the weather, and I'm making sure I check the weather and relay that to Philip. And boy, he's in a dense part of the trail, and he's not getting cell phone service. I need to make sure I get back to him on that. I have to remember that. I have to be on top of that. I have to physically be checking that and communicating with him. God doesn't have to be brought up to speed. God knows what's ahead. God knows what's around the corner. He made it. He created it. He laid it out for us. He knows what our life is all about. He knows what we're up against. Along with that, and I started to say this, number two, God knows what's ahead. He knows what's ahead. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. God has we call it a helicopter view of our lives. We have a dashboard view of our lives. We can only see what's right there. We don't know what's up ahead. God knows what's up ahead. He knows what's coming. He knows the things we're going to be dealing with. He knows what's there for us that's going to help us and encourage us. He knows some of the trials that may be up ahead, where we're going to grow and we're going to learn. He knows what's up there. I don't know. It's probably a good thing I don't know. I might get discouraged. I might be upset. I might be concerned. I might worry about it. I might worry about tomorrow, today, if I knew what I was going to have to face tomorrow. But I don't. I know who holds tomorrow, because he knows what's up ahead. He knows better than I do. He sees the future. He knows what's in store for me, what's in store for my family. He knows what I'm going to be dealing with. He knows what I need today to help me face the trials of tomorrow. He knows. I don't know, but he does. Number 3. Isn't it great to know that Jesus came and lived this life and walked this path already? The Bible tells us he was faced with every trial or every temptation that we could be faced with. Him, of course, without sin, but he's already walked it. He's already done it. He's been here. We don't have a God that is impersonal to us. We have one that's very personal to us. One that knows what we're going through. When I say, Jesus, I'm struggling today, Jesus is like, I know. I struggle too. I'm facing temptation today. I know. I face temptation too. People have hurt me today. Jesus is like, I know. People have hurt me too. He's been here. He's walked it. He's done it. He doesn't have to sit here and talk about it or obviously wonder what it's like. Of course not. He's God. He's been here. He even took on the form of flesh and walked where we walk. He's been there. He knows. I wrote down number 4 then. He knows specifically what I need. He knows what I need to do the job. He knows what I need. It was Philip's getting ready to go on the Appalachian Trail, and we go to I think we went to Dick's Sporting Goods. Picked out a pair of hiking sneakers and a backpack and a few things. After he had hiked for 4 weeks, he's like, this backpack is too heavy. This sleeping bag is too heavy. These sneakers, too heavy. Everything's too heavy. We need to get the weight down. And he begins to know, I need this type, and I need this material, and I need this. And he's been out there for a little while. He begins to figure out what he needs to do the job that he's trying to do. What kind of food he can take. What's going to make it? What can he take that he doesn't have to cook, but will last in his backpack for a couple days? How long does he have to go before he can resupply his food? What kind of purifying equipment and pills does he have for his water? Because you just don't want to drink the water everywhere you stop along the way. You'll get sick. You got to purify your water. And so he's beginning to know all the things he needs. Isn't it great? God knows what I need. Disciples say, Jesus, teach us to pray. John the Baptist, he taught his disciples to pray. Jesus, teach us to pray. Jesus said, okay, pray in this manner. Give us this day our daily bread. Give us what we need today. Jesus knows what we need on this life that we're going through. He knows exactly the things that we need. And ready, here's part 2 of that. That means he knows what we don't need. Along the path, there's certain places set up as hostels. We don't use too many hostels in America, but there's hostels along the Appalachian Trail. These are people who have set up maybe a garage or part of their home or something where they let hikers stay. It's usually very cheap. It's usually a bunch of people in one room because it's just for one night. There's pictures, if you want to look it up. You stop at the very first hostel, the very first one. It is overladen with supplies that people thought they needed and very quickly find out they don't need. There's people that take like 2 or 3 pairs of shoes. You hike them over a mountain or two, you realize, nope, I'll get a second pair of shoes when I need it. I'm not carrying these shoes for 2,000 miles. There's people that they take axes. Axes. You don't carry an axe over more than one mountain before you realize that axe is not that important. If you go to that first hostel there, it's in Georgia, not far from the beginning of the Appalachian Trail. You go to that hostel, there is piles of stuff. They have arrangements with the post office to send things back that are of value to you, and a lot of things that are just there for the taking if someone wants it. Piles of books. People are like, when I'm out on the Appalachian Trail, I'm going to take some good books and read in my downtime. And then you hike for 30 miles, and you go to bed exhausted. I did that when I went to the Shenandoah Valley. The first night we were there, it rained horrifically. Downpour all night. Things got wet, even though I was in the shelter. Things got wet. The second night, I hiked, and I had to slog through some mud and over some streams. I didn't sleep well the night before. My backpack was not as toned in as Philip's, and that night, I remember distinctly. I got to our clearing. The weather was nice. I set up my little tent. I didn't even think about dinner. I crawled in and fell exactly fast asleep. I was exhausted. You're not reading books out there. You're not carrying axes. Why am I saying that? Because God knows what we need in this life, and God often removes things from our life that he knows we don't need. We think we need them, and God's like, no. No, you don't. It's easy. I've talked about this with gardening in the past. It's easy when God takes the weeds out of our life, right? We don't want them anyway. They're a nuisance. They don't look good. We want weeds out of our life. But it's hard when God starts to prune our life. And we're like, well, that looked pretty nice. We might have got some fruit off of that. God says, no. You'll bear more fruit when we prune. Well, God, I don't want to lose that. I don't want you to take that. I don't want to give up that. Lord, I think I need that. And Lord's like, no, you don't. I know your path. I know where you are. I know where you're walking. I walked it too. I know what you need. God says, I know what you don't need. And there's things in your life that are going to be removed, and you're going to be like, that hurts, God. God says, we're going to make you walk the path that you need to walk in the way you need to walk it. It's not always easy. But last of all, I think this is most important. Verse number 4. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. I don't walk the path alone. I don't walk through this life by myself. The picture of me being a trail manager for my son is okay, but it has vast limitations, and that is oftentimes I'm 1,000 miles away, and I'm trying to communicate on a cell phone, and I'm trying to get in touch with him when he's in the dense part of the forest, and I can't always make contact. It was great when we had those few opportunities to stop along the trail and walk with him and see him and take him to the store and take him to the restaurant, get him resupplied, take him, thank goodness, to the laundromat and get all that stuff cleaned up and that, just try to work on and get him back on the trail and back on the way. That was great when we could do that. It's so much better in my Christian life that God says, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Never. And I'm walking the path of life. I'm going through the trials of life. And God says, I am always with you. I will fear no evil. Why? Thou art with me. He made my life. He made the path of my life. He knows what's ahead. He came and literally walked it. He took on flesh and walked through this life and faced the trials we're up against. He knows everything I need. He knows everything I don't need. And on top of all of that, when I face this path of life, the Lord says, come on, I'm walking with you. You're not alone. I'm going with you. You're not by yourself. I will go. Philip took off that first day to hike the trail, him, his buddy Joe. They go down, a friend of theirs drops him off. Joe had been in the United States Air Force. He had gone through basic training. He was in shape. Philip had worked at Sears and Roebuck. He was not in shape. They hit that trail the very first day. At the end of the very first day of hiking, Philip sends me a message. I haven't seen Joe since we left. I'm all by myself out here. I'm like, please do not tell your mother that again, ever, I'm somewhere in the woods of Georgia and I'm by myself. Please don't say that. Isn't it great that the Lord doesn't walk faster than us? Leave us? Say, I hope you can catch up. The Lord says, I am always with you. I will never leave you. When we face the trials of this life, when we face the difficulties of this life, and this path seems arduous and hard and difficult, and we're not ready for it, we're not prepared for it, the Lord says, look, I know what you need and what you don't need, and by the way, I'm going to be with you every step of the way. When we leave here this morning, I think we should be leaving here with a smile on my face, all of our faces, knowing that He is always with me. I'm not facing this stuff by myself. I'm not doing it all by myself. God doesn't say, here's all your stuff. Good luck out there in life. There are those that believe that, right? They believe that God takes a hands-off approach. No. Aren't you glad for verses like Psalm 23, verse 4? I will fear no evil. Thou art with me. It's always with me. So when I face the trials, it's not something that surprises God. It's not something that stumps Him. When we get to it, the Lord's like, I already know. I've already prepared for it. You've been prepared for it. We can face this together, not on our own. Out there walking on that trail, I found it difficult. It looks good on paper, right? All you got to do is walk. And then you look up at that mountain, And it's difficult sometimes. But by the way, just as a side note, because I think this is applicable as well. Oftentimes I found it was more difficult to walk down the mountain than up the mountain. Up the mountain was exhausting. But down the mountain is where I hurt my knee. That pounding and the gravel sliding. And you're trying to keep your balance. And it hurts your legs. A lot of the hikers will use poles to try to stabilize themselves. That's not for up the mountain, that's for down the mountain. Keep your balance. Try to help them down. We go through that life. Going up sometimes is hard. Coming down sometimes is hard too. He says, I am always with you, even unto the end of the world.
Thank you for listening to Redeemed. For more information, you can email us at pastorwesgunther@gmail.com. Thank you.